we're now at the outside extremities of site number 1. These stakes that have colored flags on them mark the outside boundaries of this site. In other words, this is the area that we should take into consideration when evaluating what practices need to be used at this location. So we're still on site number 1 where the owner desires a woodlot. This is the lower left-hand boundary of this site. What I'm going to do next is to walk up the hill to the upper boundary of the site. You should be paying attention to what type of vegetation is growing here and what the site in general looks like, so you can use that information for the purpose of evaluating vegetative and management as well as mechanical practices at this location. So now I'll begin to walk up to the other upper boundary of this site. Now you'll notice as I walked across this site that this particular location has a very good stand of perennial grass. You should also take note of whether or not you believe there to be any undesirable tree or brush species here that may need to be controlled. So the distance, the total area that we are determining here or evaluating for this site is basically about a 100 by 100 feet in dimension area. So we're approximately talking about an area of about 1,000 square feet. The pit is located at the base of this site. In the previous picture as well as now, I'm located at the far end of the site. So the next thing we're going to do at this location is to determine the slope of the land. And of course we need to know that for the purpose of completing our land evaluation card, and it also comes into as a factor when we're looking at this site from a standpoint of evaluating vegetative as well as mechanical practices. Now we're at the location at the base of this site where we're going to use the orange flag stakes to determine slope. The instrument that we're going to be using to determine slope is called an Abney level. Abney levels are basically a sight tube. We're going to look through the peephole on this end, turn the dial until a bubble comes into our view window, and we're going to align that bubble with a line in that view window. When we do that, we're going to be reading a scale here. Now, the scale on the Abney level is given to us in both degrees of slope and percent of slope. And for the purpose of this land evaluation exercise, we'll be using the percent of slope scale. So I'm going to place the Abney level on top of the stake, and I'm going to sight through to the other orange flag stake at the other end of this site. I'm going to turn the dial until a bubble comes into the sight window, and I align it with the line in that sight window. Then I simply take it down and look at the percent of slope. In this case, we're shooting down slope, but it really doesn't make any difference whether we shoot down slope or up slope. The only difference would be in which direction we turn the scale on the Abney level. When shooting down slope, we turn the scale clockwise, and when shooting up slope, we'll be turning the scale counterclockwise. At this particular location, we come up with a slope of 2%. So you'll need to take that information, plug it into your land evaluation card, and use that slope of 2% to determine characteristics and capability class for this land. This should complete the information that you need to complete your land evaluation card on site number 1, Desires Woodlot. Vegetative and management practices as well as mechanical practices that you recommend will be based on the intended use for the site and come out of your land evaluation manual. So utilize your land evaluation manual and the information that we've gathered here today at this site to complete a scorecard for site number 1, Desires Woodlot.